everyone, and welcome to round 6 of the Trackstars Formula 2 Championship. And we are live here tonight from the Nurburgring Grand Prix Circuit, of course round 6 of the championship. And we're just getting underway with qualifying for this event, and we've got about 7.5 minutes left of the 8-minute session as we speak. Joining me tonight will be, as always, the defending champion of the Formula Trackstars series, Trackstars touring cars, and of course the Porsche Cup, Spud P666. And of course I'm your host tonight, Jarman Dallitz, or otherwise known as It's Racing. So I don't know whether Spud is with me at the moment or if he's busy setting up the second lobby, but I'm sure whenever he's ready he'll jump in and start talking with me. So we just get the cars on their warm-up laps here, so should be working on getting some space between each other around this, I think it's 4.5 kilometre circuit. Should be plenty of room to spread out, get some clean air, or maybe line yourself up for a draft, which appears to be what Jono's doing here, so we'll see what happens here. Maybe he's looking for a partner or something. It'll be Bjorn Borg-Zundies who comes across the line and will be the first driver to start his flying lap here in this qualifying session. As he comes down to the hard braking turn 1, very tight hairpin right hand corner. I'm sure that'll provide a lot of action later on tonight as this heads into the Mercedes Arena, which was added to the circuit in 2002, so replacing the normal right-left chicane that was featured on the circuit from 1984 through to the end of 2002. And of course that section still gets used, although it's a bit tighter now with the Nurburgring 24-hour race. And I believe it has been used for some bike racing as well. As Bjorn Borg-Zundies now comes through to Michael Schumacher S, which was renamed in 2007. And through turns 10 and 11. He comes across the end of the third sector of 113.9. Down to this final, what they call the NGK chicane. So Bjorn Borg-Zundies been closed in a bit by Jono Stan, so I'm going to say Jono might be looking like the early pace setter here. See what Bjorn Borg-Zundies comes up with. He's done a 140.5, but Jono Stan a 138.3 to go to the top at the moment. Looks like Highlander's the next car to come along. What's he going to produce? 142. Duran 50 just behind. He jumps up to second place with a 1 minute 39.1. Still 9/10 behind Jono Stan. So Jono's put in a really fast lap to start with here. Of course, JMX, who's sitting 7th in the series at the moment, he's qualified in 3rd place. Then Sir Slayer 1991, who's come through pre-qualifying along with Jono Stan and Duran 50. Well, actually Jono Stan didn't come through pre-qualifying, he earned his way in through winning the last round.
And also Jono Stan's going to be joining us in the main series, Jarman, as one of your latest signings for the It's Racing Esports camp, as we see Jono Stan leading the way ahead of Duran 50 and JMX for the 12-match Spuds, doing a great job in 3rd place, but it is early days here at the Trackstars Formula 2 series at the Nurburgring Grand Prix, which has been labelled the Green Hell Haven by Jackie Stewart back in the late 50s and 60s. So it's quite a technical track, and it's a great track for all drivers, and one that was very regularly seen on the F1 calendar before it had its little switch around with the Hockenheimring, also in Germany, but the F1 just decided to preferred the Hockenheimring compared to the German Nurburgring. So yeah, and then we got it back last year for the Eiffel Grand Prix, where ironically that's where Lewis Hamilton matched Michael Schumacher's race win record back in 2020 with Max Verstappen setting the fastest lap around here, and Hamilton winning the race from pole position.
Yeah, that's right, and of course, I think that was also where Ricciardo took a podium for Renault as well. If I'm
Yeah,
not
that was
mistaken.
his first podium for Renault, so it was a good ground for Ricciardo to get his first podium. And I'm not so sure if I saw the German German Grand Prix being shown on the calendar this year. I'm not too sure.
No, it's missing from this year's calendar, so briefly
Well, I
returned
wondered.
last year in the COVID hit season, but now it's
Exactly.
starting to get to normal. Maybe they'll try and sneak it in as a replacement for the Australian Grand Prix.
And I believe so, and it was great to see the Nurburgring Grand Prix come back last year. It's it's a favourite track of mine, and I love seeing the Formula One cars, especially in the wet 2007 Grand Prix, where all hell just broke loose, and just one moment down into turn one on the wet, and everyone was in trouble. But except for the one driver, which was the backmarker team, who actually took the lead of that race before the red flag came out. And before, next thing you know it, he was gobbled up and he's made his way back up to the back end of the grid.
Yeah, of course, that was a nice one to watch, and very remarkable to see Winkelhock end up towards the front, even with that gamble paying off, and he's looking very strong there. Unfortunately, the red flag stopped everything for him, but I'm sure that was fortunate for a few other drivers that probably got themselves stuck in the gravel and maybe got a free kick here or there.
As we look up towards Normax C, he's usually known as a quick driver. He's up into second place, so it's a great lap by Normax C. But what about, we got Mint Matt here? So the 2015 GT Academy winner Mint Matt joining us here at Trackstars in the Formula 2 Trackstars. He's rounding up the final corner at turn 15, coming up towards the checkered flag. He was fastest in the pre-qualifying. Is he going to get a fast lap time and topple John O'Steen? He has done. So what a great lap that was by Mint Matt. But we're going to look down, and Viper said he's right behind him, and he's just going to come through. He's in second place. So advantage goes to Mint Matt ahead of Viper said. John O'Steen in the It's Racing, or the newly signed It's Racing esports driver, with Norm XD and Broccolilli. So we saw Broccolilli show great form last time out in the Catalonia Grand Prix in the formulas, but unfortunately his disconnect prevented any chance of him challenging for the podium position. But hopefully this time round, all systems are go, and hopefully he can get himself in within the top 5, maybe even a podium.
Yeah, it's looking good so far for Broccolilli, and he's shown himself as a fast driver in recent rounds of this series, even though we've had a bit of an invasion from the likes of Mint Matt, Viper's Head, John O'Steen, Duram, Normax C.
Exactly.
There's Duram's about 4/10 up at the moment, so he might be pushing his way into the top 5 with a good final sector here as we come to the final corner of his last lap.
So you'd be looking to topple off Broccolilli in 5th place, where we do know Broccolilli is a handy driver in the formula. So can Duran make his way up into the top 5? He does. So just gets himself with the top 5, just knocks off Broccolilli, but Broccolilli is right behind. It's on his final lap here. So can Broccolilli, for the ICE racing team, the Intercontinental Esports Racing Group, for Broccolilli in the number 13, can he get himself across the line and get that slipstream advantage off John O'Steen? No, he stays where he is. Actually, no, he's been promoted to 5th, so he does knock off Duran 50 there. So that's a great lap. What about Mint Matt? Can he improve his time? He doesn't. He's a second over his normal pace. Viper sets right behind him, and no one improves their lap, Jarman. It is Mint Matt leading the way from pole position ahead of Viper Z in second place.
Yeah, good lap there from Mint Matt, and of course Viper Z very close behind as well, so this is shaping up to be a great battle between probably the first 5 or 6 cars, that's for sure.
Exactly, and if you look down right the field in 11th place, championship leader Cylon 96 in 11th, so he's got himself a lot of ground to catch up, because his nearest competitor JMX, the teammates, is in 8th place. So those two will be hoping to work together to get themselves up towards the front. See the 4 red lights come on. There's lights out, green flag racing. It's Mint Matt versus Viper Set coming into the turn 1 corner. Who's going to get the jump? It looks like it's Viper Set with the inside advantage over Mint Matt, and Jono Stan right behind with Broccolilli thinking about going on making an outside move, but he just gets a bit shoved wide there, Mint Matt by Viper Set, as they still crack on side by side between Mint Matt and Viper Set, and Jono Stan's tucked in right behind with Broccolilli gaining an advantage, getting a spot from the beginning of the race as Norm XC actually moves up ahead, and Viper Set and Mint Matt are still side by side. So this has been going on for the last 6-7 corners, but it's even itself out now as Mint Matt in the number 89 leads the way ahead of Viper Set in the Satellite Racing Porsche, not Porsche, that was the last time out on Thursday, in the Satellite Racing Formula, with Jono Stan right behind in 3rd place, Norm XC in 4th, with Broccolilli right in the slipstream in 5th place.
Yeah, of course, as you mentioned there, side by side for 5-6 corners. It seems to be a trademark of Nurburgring Grand Prix Circuit. I know plenty of races we've had around here, and drivers have gone half a lap going side by side just because of the respect they have between each other, and it's one of those even tracks where you just can't really get the move done.
That's right, and looking at the field, it looks like it's been an even start, a clean start. Looks like no one's been pushed off the track, and everyone's pretty much neck and tail with each other, and they're all following each other single file as Lee coming up towards the end of the first lap. It looks like it's going to be Matt leading the way ahead of Viper Set and Jono Stan in 3rd place, as we see championship contenders JMX in 7th place. But we need to look back down and see if we can find Cylon 96. I wonder how far he's moved up on the grid. So he's far down. He's actually dropped a position in 12th place, so not looking good for Cylon 96 so far. It looks to be making a move on Robbo Sport, I believe that is. Yes, it is. And Bjorn Borg's Undies, who was also a split 2 winner from last time out. And Cylon 96 has had a half spin there, and he's just made contact with I believe that was Bjorn, and he just got a bit of contact, and it's now been relegated to the last place, Chalmers, and not the start that Cylon wanted within these first 2 laps. As we look at a replay, and looks like Bjorn just cut in across, just didn't know where he is, and Cylon just got a bit too throttle happy.
Yeah, just a bit too much throttle on the exit. Easy to do from all of us here, so...
Absolutely. I remember getting myself caught out within the first few laps last time out at Nurburgring last year. And that happened to me when I was leading the race, and yeah, I do feel Xylon. Feels for Xylon there, he doesn't look like he's in the rhythm that we normally see a championship leader in, and this is going to play well into JMX's hand, because a bad round for Xylon 96 can only help JMX move himself up closer to 1st place.
Yeah, although the other one to watch out for is Robbo Sport, who's actually 2nd in the standings, so...
Exactly right, and Robbo's, I believe he's in the 10 as well, so... And as I look up towards the Split 2 division of the Formula 2, we have Nightwalker Racing for the WRT racing team in 1st place, with TTV Bite the Roses for EBM Motorsport, for the one EBM Motorsport in the F2 category in 2nd place, with SDRT Mazda from the Shadon Racing team in 3rd place, their newest signing for the Shadon Racing team, with Warpath 2nd entry for the WRT Motorsport in 4th place, with SRF Hand 9989, our only female in the Trackstars community, in 5th place, with Ice R Benjo 19 rounding up the rear of the grid. But looking up towards the main series, it is still Mint Matt ahead of Viper Set. So these foes in the top 4 definitely know each other, and they definitely know their racecraft, and they know, and I guess in a way they would know what strategies they're going to play out. Because we see JMX fending off from Sir Slayer, and Sir Slayer has actually been showing some great overall pace, Jarman, as we saw it in the Porsches on Thursday night. Sir Slayer's a contender for basically top 5s, and possibly maybe a surprise podium one day.
Yeah, he's definitely been putting in some great performances lately, and probably another one here. It's a very hotly contested field in this top split of the Trackstars Formula 2 series, so 8th place is definitely nothing to be sneezed at, that's for sure.
No, exactly right, and an 8th place in a competitive field like the F2 series is a great result, but he knows that he can definitely challenge for, at least for JMX's position in 7th place. But I wonder if strategies will come out through the pit stop, because it looks like it's all evened up now between 1st through to 15th there. So, and the only guy that will be having a bit of work to do will be definitely Cylon 96 down in 15th place, so he'll definitely need to get a move on to catch up to his teammate up in 7th place.
Yeah, that's definitely one
as
to
you
look
see
out for.
Sir Slayer run wide, I apologise there. Rugworth looks like he's getting himself a good tow ahead of, behind Sir Slayer 96. So Sir Slayer decides to defend as he sees Rugworth starts to make a move on the outside. Is that going to happen? Surely not. Not yet. As we see Bjorn coming on the inside, just gives Sir Slayer a bit of a tap there, and Bjorn just runs Rugworth a little bit further wide than he normally should, but that promotes Bjorn up into 9th place. So that one might have to be looked at by the stewards later on if Bjorn actually pushed Rugworth off the track and gained an advantage there.
Yeah, it might be one to look at, but yeah, it looked like very minor contact, so might be something that the stewards let slide a little bit.
Exactly, and I guess the stewards aren't like the Formula 1 stewards that we saw in Austria, so when the rubbing is racing, then it's great fun, but we don't want to dish out harsh penalties like they did back at the Austrian Grand Prix only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we want to promote some hard racing, but try and keep it as clean as possible too, so yeah, let's see what the stewards decide when they take a closer look post-race maybe, whether it gets reported or not.
Exactly. As you see, Robbo Sport in 11th place, so he's got Highlander for company down in 12th place, followed by his teammate Mickey's 1, 2, 3, and then I would assume Xylon 96 to be down towards the rear. Actually, yeah. So that is Devlin in 15th place. So our only international in the F2 main series, which is led by Devlin Calypso down in 15th place. As we look towards the F2 split 2, we see TTV Bite the Roses and EBM Motorsport and WRT's Nightwalker 964 having a great battle for first place. And the first few pit stops have been made, but it's still TTV Bite the Roses and Nightwalker in first and second, with SDRT Mazda not too far away in third place. He's actually right on the tail there, so within a second the top 3. So one to keep an eye on later in the race. They're about halfway and they're going to get close to lap 20.
Yeah, sounds like it's a bit more exciting battle for the first 3 positions than
what
we've got here.
I saw Viper said ran a little bit too much onto the marbles there and just caught himself up there. Maybe that might help John O'Stan close the gap up a bit, but you're right there. The gap has evenly spread it out between the top 3, even the top 5, because I don't think Norm XC and Brock Lilly are anywhere near the top 3 at all.
Yeah, the top 3 have sort of cleared out a little bit, but we've got Norm XC and Brock Lilly. Brock Lilly's a little bit closer.
Quite close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, I thought Broccoli was a little bit further away, but he's actually quite close to Normaxi, so fingers crossed his mother doesn't turn his internet off, because we want to definitely see a battle for 4th place between Normaxi and Broccoli. So we're right on board with Broccoli coming up to navigating this awkward chicane, you could say. I mean, most drivers would prefer the GP, the actual flowing chicane, but that one's only been introduced, like you said, in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, probably everyone would prefer that other GT chicane, or the one you see at the Nurburgring 24 hours, and of course the VLN/NLS, but of course this one slows the cars down a bit more, maybe provides a bit of a braking opportunity to get an overtake in under brakes, but otherwise it is very challenging. But if you get it right, then it's rewarding.
One thing that we do always see at least in the game, is just how much advantage they take off that right-hander coming past the Mercedes arena. That infield that leads into basically the technical turn 2 of the Nurburgring 24-hour layout. They're just abusing that chicane, that excess road on the left-hand side as well. And then surprisingly, they don't give out penalties, which is good, because in the real world, most drivers use that left-hand side of the road and they get as much advantage as they can.
Yeah, it's one that you can certainly take advantage of. But of course, if you get too far out wide, you might end up in the grass and spinning out if you're not controlling it properly. So it is a bit of a risk versus reward there.
Oh, sorry to cut you off here. I'm looking at split 2, 3 wide going towards the NGK chicane. That is surely not going to happen. And it looks like they've all come out cleanly there. as we see TTV bite the roses, SDRT, Madstar, and Nightwalker having a great battle for the top 3. That's absolutely amazing. So I'll definitely have to save that and show you that one later on, John, because that was brilliant stuff. And I don't know how no one spun out there.
It definitely sounds interesting there. So some good
Absolutely,
racing going on, but looks like Broccolilli dropped back a little bit. He made a bit of a mistake coming through that last chicane that we talked about as well. So that just dropped him a bit back behind Norm XE.
And it is a bit of an awkward chicane because there's so many lines you can take, but just 1 millimeter close to the right, and basically it's all gone. And basically that's where you get the half-second penalty. So it's fine margins from that NGK chicane. So it's all about for the drivers, at least in the main series, to try and take up as much advantage as they can without getting a half-second penalty.
Yeah, it's a very fine line there, and even then, like, it's not even the penalty you have to worry about. Maybe you hit it the wrong way and it throws you out the exit on an awkward angle, or you accelerate at the wrong time after hitting it awkwardly and it just ends up spitting you out the other side if you're not careful.
Exactly. As we look down, we see John O'Stan, Norm XC and Broccolilli all close within each other, but Duran 50 is, as we thought we would see, have a great stint in as he has a great drive in the TS2 in his Nissan GTR. He's struggling a little bit with these SF19s, but by no means is he a slow driver, as he's get himself up into 6th place. And I do see down there, we see Sir Slayer in 7th, Bjorn Borgundy. I wonder if JMX has actually made a mistake there, because he was in 7th place not long ago. Looks like he has. So
either a mistake or he's just lost a little bit of time here.
Mistake there for JMX and the 12 mashed buds, at least in 9th, 10th and in 14th place. So not a great showing for the mashed buds and the VL racing driver in Rugworth. So like you said, like if it wasn't for these top guys, do you think possibly with these top drivers such as Mint, Matt, Viper said, John O'Stan, do you think that gives them not much confidence when it comes to F2 racing or Division 2 racing, or do you think it motivates them?
It's a hard one because, like, there's guys like Broccolilli Broccolilli's in 6th in the series. He's actually ahead of JMX, so he might be one to watch out for, and he's sort of lifted his game to make sure that he can compete with these guys, whereas others maybe have just sat a little bit back, so it can work both ways.
Definitely noticed that within the last few rounds, where JMX has been showing off great pace, and even Xylon 96 last time out in Catalonia in TS2 putting the fight towards Viper and race 3 there. So they're not showing much lack of confidence, but I just believe in the SF category, where in theory they should be the most dominant driver pairing in JMX and Xylon 96, with JMX having a stint in the main series last year and Xylon only coming runner-up behind XX Uso 16X. So this is a category for these guys to excel in, but being down in 10th and 13th place is not looking great.
No, it isn't looking great for him, but maybe it's something to consider, that maybe these guys that are coming through are certainly very fast, and could be some drivers that the main series teams look at and maybe ask the question.
Broccolilli coming into the pit stops. He's just dropped himself down into 12th place as he keeps it within the white line. Yes, he does. So that's nice and cleanly for Broccolilli. He won't be getting a 5-second penalty for crossing that line, and he just came out ahead of Xylon 96 there. So Xylon is definitely that far down. So he's got a lot of work to do, Xylon, and he just needs to keep his head down and just try to recover what was an unfortunate spin.
Did I just accidentally Lance Stroll everyone?
No, I don't believe so. I don't think he's come in for a pit. So no, he hasn't. So he's still got worn tyres. But yeah, so Xylon 96, the championship leader for the F2 series, who had a great season last year, battling the likes of Ando 787 from Gridline Racing, and even SDRT Wiseacre, formerly known as likely Wiseacre from last year. So he had a great battle last year with those guys, but just this year down in 13th place and leading the championship. He just needs to find a little bit extra, possibly for the next round, at least I would say, in the TS2, and and then the next Formula race coming up in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, it's still only early days in the championship, so maybe someone like Viper Z might still be ready to make a charge up the order, especially with guys like Mint Matt, Jono Stan, all sort of there to maybe build a bit of a gap between cars, and which were equals in more points in the gap between them.
Yeah, exactly. One to look back as myself as a team boss and just try to regather the group and just get their heads down, and hopefully for the next Formula round they can move further up towards the grid. So as we look back towards the front, I don't think there's much battling up the front with Mint Matt leading the way. He's got himself a healthy 2.7 second gap over Viper Z, and looks like Mint Matt and the SF19 around here at the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit, it looks like they're gelling compared to the last time out at Catalunya. So where Mint Matt really struggled at Catalunya, but this track looks like it's suiting his driving style so far.
Yeah, well, I can certainly attest that Mint Matt would have been doing plenty of laps of the GP layout along with the rest of the Nürburgring, so I'm sure he has a very good knowledge of this track, that's for sure.
Yeah, I believe probably himself. I wonder if he's like I was talking to you off the stream. I wonder how much racing he's actually done here, as Mint Matt actually does come into the pit lane for his first set of tyres. So he goes from the racing soft to the super soft. So at least that's about half race distance. So it's good good to see that the drivers you can see different strategies. So and I guess the pace between super softs and soft isn't that much different. At least what I'm seeing in the F2 series.
Sometimes it's actually much more comfortable to race with the soft tyre than it is the super soft.
Exactly.
Just
I wonder
because
if
you have so much more grip.
That's going to provide an interesting strategy come for the main series in the Formula Track Stars, where we have three compounds: the racing super softs, the softs, and the medium tyres. All compulsory for our 14 drivers tonight. So they'll definitely provide a lot of strategy between, the likes of myself, my teammate Punts, you guys in the It's Racing, CP Motorsports, everybody. So the strategy is going to be wide open for the overall victory tonight.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a few ways of doing things, and it'll depend on what sort of tyre life each driver can get out of their tyres in their respective tyre sets.
We look up towards split 2. We've seen all the top 3 drivers still within at least 2.3 seconds of each other, and they've all done their pit stops there, with Bite the Roses still leading the way with Night Walker and SDRT Madstar in third place, with Warpath 360 in fourth, SRF Han in fifth place doing a solid effort in the top 5, and the only retirement from the race has only been Isar Benjo 19. So that would be one to keep an eye on, at least within the next couple of laps. Myself watching it from an onboard, it's only 2 seconds between the top 3, so it's quite amazing. As we see Duran 50 make his way into the pit lane. Like I said, a bit of a quiet race for Duran 50, but I just guess mileage counts will help him for the next time out, at least in the TS2 series, where he seems so comfortable in that car, like I mentioned. And who knows, possibly we might see him in an Enduros for CP Motorsports.
Yeah, I think CP have announced their drivers already, so... Oh no, he's just crossed the line there, so that's going to be a 5-second penalty for him by the looks of things. And
it's unlucky Duran.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain to the new viewers that that are not familiar with Track Stars what we are doing about our Enduros coming up for the touring car series.
Yeah, so we have 3 endurance races coming up for the touring car series, and it's going to require the main series drivers to find a co-driver that they believe can take them to success in the 3 races coming up. Of course, we've got the Kyoto 500 in middle of September, around the I think it's the Kyoto Yamagawa circuit, and then
that's right.
A few weeks later we've got what will probably be one of the 2 big ones of which is the Bathurst 1000. And then, of course, the last round of our series going to be a marathon event, the St. Croix 1500 around the St. Croix Sea layout.
The St. Croix Sea definitely provides some great racing and some great racing action. So that'll be one to see, and obviously being the last round, everything is off the cards. There's no ballast. It's all just between driver and co-driver to hopefully for the co-drivers to propel drivers like yourself, me, even Dis Wood, and even a few others towards championship glory. So it's all about the co-drivers, and it's all about how they can help their teammates possibly win the championship with the touring cars.
Yeah, that's definitely right, and I think I was looking at it, the two combinations for CP Motorsports where Speedy Tyres will be pairing up with Dis Wood at this stage, and then D Hughes 014 looks to be joining V Papa AT in the number 4 car.
So definitely experience within that camp. 3 out of the 4 drivers have already done a Bathurst 1000 last year, so that'll help. At least that'll help V Papa get some experience and help him understand how the format works. Whilst we see Gabans as well get himself his local, or at least a local driver from his Army/Australian Defence Force members, Sir Slayer, who's actually running in 6th place. Not 6th place, 8th place, running in the F Formula 2, with also Shade On Racing confirming their drivers, with Dan 08 partnering up with SDRT Wazadon, and we see Mountain Go partnering up with Likely Wiseacre. But back towards the action, we see John Stan defending from Normex. But what's going on here? Matt back into the pit lane?
Yeah, I believe you're right. I think he's accidentally taken a second set of soft tyres.
Oh,
so this is going to be devastating for Matt.
As we see Viper take the lead of the race, and this is going to be devastating for Matt, who was looking for a comfortable victory here at the Formula 2 Track Stars Racing Series event at the Nurburgring Grand Prix for round 6 of the championship, as we see Matt drop himself as low as 6th place where he was looking for a victory. So mistakes happen, and I guess we saw, obviously costly mistakes like that can happen when a driver is comfortably in the lead, and all of a sudden they just have a bit of a brain fart and things don't go their way.
Yeah, you've got to be on your game here and make sure you're choosing the right tyres at all times. Otherwise it can prove very costly in the breakdown at the end of the race. But at least Matt's recognised his mistake and got back out on track. And it looks like he's sitting in 5th place at the moment. So he's only just behind Rugworth, so he can still get himself up into...
Yet.
Yeah, Rugworth hasn't pitted, so that will put himself into 4th place. And
so a nice little performance there for Rugworth there, just to be up in 4th place and come with a different strategies. But he's out of the sequence of cars, so he'll be dropping himself right down the field, probably towards the back end of the top 10 or within the top 10, because I believe he was ahead of JMX. But nice little confidence boost for Rugworth to be up in 4th place. As we see Matt, like you said, he'll be inheriting that 4th place. But I don't know, the gap between him and Normex C, as we see, actually do call Rugworth coming into the pit lane, and looks like he executed the entry perfectly. Hopefully his pit exit will be the same as well. But we see Matt inherit 4th place, and he's still a fair way. He can see John stand in the distance, but I'm not so sure if that's going to be close enough with 5 laps to go.
Yeah, it's about a 4-second gap, so I think Normex C and John Stan have had a bit of a Actually, I'm going to just double check the replay here. What's happened to Jono? Because he's dropped back a fair way.
Well, we did call that action a couple of laps ago, where it was John Stan and Normex C going side by side before the NGK chicane. So it looks like John Stan's struggling a little bit in this second stint on the super soft tyres. He's obviously not comfortable with the super soft like he was with the soft tyres, and hopefully he'll be learning that just before he steps up for the main series in the Formula Track Stars, debuting in the 96 in the It's Racing Esports 96 SF19. So one fun for learning for John Stan, but happy for him. But he'd be happy enough just to be on the podium position at least, and ahead of Matt.
I think he actually think he lost out to Nurburgring on the pit stops by the looks of things, because I did see Nurburgring ahead on the tower, and then as I cut across, it was those two. It was an actual overtake for position earlier, so looks like Nurburgring's got back past again, so might be a bit of a mistake there from Jono or two, as it looks like Jono's just sort of creeping back up to the back of Nurburgring again.
He is closing the gap, yes he is. So what was going to be at least 5 winners, or I'm not so sure if this is the 5th or 6th round, but I believe this is the 6th round. We're going to have 5 winners in a row, but Matt, with that costly mistake, is going to end the streak of 6 consecutive winners there. So by the looks of it, if we see, unless Viper makes a mistake, it looks like it's going to be a Viper victory, because the gap between himself and Nurburgring is quite large. So unfortunately for Matt, he's got a lot of work to catch up to these guys, but he knows he's got the pace, and he knows that leading from the front will hopefully get him close to John O'Stan with at least 2 laps or even 1 lap to go.
Yeah, and of course these two at the moment, they might be fighting it out for the minor spots on the podium, but the way Matt's catching up, it might be one of these guys that actually misses out, depending on how this battle plays out.
As we see, Nurburgring just struggling a little bit, and he's got John O'Stan right up behind him, so there's a battle for 2nd place, and I think they need to work together to say, look, we need to run away from Matt, because he is catching, and we do know he's got the pace. So, but we did see in the distance, Matt is a bit further away than to John O'Stan, so it's going to be a mammoth task for Matt to catch up. I guess anything can happen.
Yeah, as Jono looks ahead to make the move, and he gets the job done into this chicane, so hopefully a good exit from Jono, and he'll start to build the gap again and maybe secure a podium for himself.
Exactly. As we've wrapped up the split 2, it is Nightwalker 964 for the WRT Motorsport Camp, taking out the victory ahead of SDRT Madstar, and then followed by TTV Bite the Roses, Warpath in 4th, with SRF Hand rounding up the top 5. So a great performance from those split 2 drivers, and congratulations to the WRT team in Nightwalker 964.
Yeah, great effort from those guys, as we go on board with Matt, who's trying to chase down a podium spot here.
As we ride on board with Matt, let's stay on board for the rest of the lap, and let's see how much closer we can get. So here's a lap from Matt, the 2015 GT Academy winner, taking us for a lap around the Nurburgring. So enjoy, ladies and gentlemen, for Matt's lap at the Nurburgring. See Matt closing up to Nurburgring. He's closed up massively there, so he's definitely, with 3 laps to go, he is going to be definitely challenging for that podium position. I'm not so sure if Nurburgring has the pace to hold him back, and I'm just wondering if he's just going to let him go and inherit that 3rd place.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I kind of get the feeling it might be every man for himself here, so I'm sure Nurburgring will try and fend Matt off with everything he's got, but it might not quite be enough for Nurburgring to hold him off, and I'm sure by the looks of things, I think Matt will probably get the job done here in the next lap.
Exactly, and it looked like, I believe, yeah, so he hasn't got much overtake Matt doesn't have much overtake compared to Nurburgring, because his light is illuminated green, which means he's got plenty of overtake, whilst the red light means they're just running low on the overtake, and once that light disappears, it means they've got no more overtake. It's all about the driver and the car to try and make those moves, but the overtake button does help when it comes to giving that bit of boost. I believe it gives them, I think, about just a bit over 100 horsepower boost in the SF19 cars.
Yeah, it's certainly a welcome addition to the car, especially when you get to use it. And, I certainly have a lot of fun with it on qualifying laps.
He hasn't made the move stick just yet, so we'll be looking to make it towards turn 1, and I believe these guys are teammates, or at least they've got the same sort of livery in that team, so he'll be looking to make a move on Norm XC very soon. But Jonathan Stan's just crept a little bit further away. As we look towards these guys, let's look down. I see Duran 50 looks like he's made a move on Broccolilli there. So finally, Duran 50's gotten ahead of Broccolilli. Must have been a couple of laps ago, but he's just got ahead of him, which is great. Sir Slayer up down in 7th place. And look at this, Jarman. Robbo Sport in 8th place, who is ahead of his nearest rivals in JMX and Xylon 96. So this is going to help Robbo out massively in the championship.
Yeah, very, very good result for him at this stage, and probably the second driver that I'd probably say that has done nearly every round so far. So definitely a good result there from Robbo Sport, and it'll probably be a welcome boost and some extra points to start reeling in the gap between himself and Xylon 96, which is at 60 points at the moment.
Yeah, so big points going towards the Robbo Sport camp. We've seen Mick Heath down in 14th and Xylon 96. Yep, what could have been for Xylon down in 13th place with this, even with his teammate in 10th place there. So, like we said, plenty of action to go. As we see, Matt does make the move on Norm XC. It looks like he's just made it before the Dunlop curve there down there at turns, I believe that's turn 9 of that section. So it's made that move stick, and it looks like he's up into 3rd place with Norm XC inheriting 4th place.
Yeah, so looks like Norm doesn't have much overtake left either on this final lap, so it might just be about who's the fastest on track rather than who's tactically used their overtake. But let's have a quick look and see whether anything's possible on this final lap.
Norm XC doesn't want to give up on this, but he knows he hasn't got the tyres compared to Mint Matt. So as we keep an eye on that battle, and if Norm XC has any potential to get himself up back into 3rd place, look down towards the front. It is still Viper Z leading the way for the Satellite Racing Team. He's about to take his 2nd victory in the Formula 2 Track Stars Racing Series here at the Nurburgring, followed by John O'Stan 96 in 2nd place, Mint Matt in 3rd, Norm XC in 4th, Duran 50 in 5th place, and Broccolilli, we could say the non-pre-qualifier, in 6th place ahead of Sir Slayer in 7th place, and Robbo Sport Bjorn has actually taken 8th place and actually inherited 8th place. So Robbo Sport looks like he's dropped a position there. And with JMX down in 10th place, as we see coming up towards the final corner, not the final corner, the last section of the track for the final time in the number 56 Viper Z in Satellite Racing. Hasn't put a foot wrong, Jarman, and I guess hasn't made any mistakes compared to Mid-Matt.
No, it's been a flawless race here from Viper Z. Maybe not the fastest one out there, but he's kept himself clean and done all the right things, and he's going to come across the line now and take victory here in round 6 of the Trackstars Formula 2 series. So it's Viper Z that takes the win here at the Nurburgring Grand Prix Circuit.
Congratulations to the Satellite Racing driver in Viper Z, followed by John O'Stan 96. Though we'll be seeing him later on in the main series with Matt after what was going to be a comfortable victory ahead of Viper Z, or anything could have happened. I mean, we can't reverse time, but it looked like his victory was certain for Matt in 3rd place, with Norm XC in 4th. Duran 50 takes 5th place ahead of Broccolilli, the non-pre-qualified driver, the fastest non-pre-qualifying driver in 6th place. So Slayer in 7th place there, with Bjorn Borg's Undies in 8th round, taking that 8th position ahead of Robbo Sport in 9th, and JMX down in 10th place. Let's see them all cross the line. Robbo in 9th, JMX into 10th place, and looks like Highlander is up there in 11th place, and we see Rugworth looks like he's dropped down the order as well. He looked like he was in the top 10 for a moment there, but yeah, just a strategy call, and I guess that 4th place just hindered his performance towards the end there, and maybe the tide temps didn't come up for him, as we see Mick Keys down in 14th place coming towards the final corner, followed by Devlin Calypso, the sole international in the Trackstar. So he actually hits the wall there, Jarman. they're pit entries, so they're not what you want on the last lap of the race.
I don't think he's going to cross the line in time.
Oh,
I think he just realised that and just started doing burnouts there.
Oh, good on you, Mix. So, the only person that should be doing donuts is this man, Viper Z, for the Satellite Racing Team, taking line honours and the victory here at the Trackstars Formula 2 Round 6 here at the German Grand Prix at the Nurburgring GP Circuit. So congratulations to the Satellite Racing crew and Viper Z for taking out line honours in Trackstars Formula 2 racing. As we look towards the results page, we do see it is confirmation Viper Z with... Actually, I was going to say with the fastest lap, but actually it was taken by John O'Stan in second place. So 5% in first, John O'Stan in second place. As I've said, John O will be making his main series debut with the It's Racing Esports Camp. So keep an eye on his performance and his pace later on this evening. With Mint Matt in third place, Norm XC in fourth after trying to hold off Mint Matt for as much as he can, but the tyres just said no, and it relegated him down to fourth place with Duran 50 rounding up the top five. So wow, what a crazy race that was, Jarman. I mean, lots of talking points there, especially in Matt's mistake there.
Yeah, I think Mint had that all sewn up and came into the pits, executed his pit stop, and the pit crew put the wrong tyres on for him, unfortunately.
So that's like saying if you're going from that's like saying if an F1 driver went from super softs to intermediates, even though the track is still dry. But the driver says, well, I believe it's time for intermediates, and then their tyres heat up. And I wonder if that was the same in Matt's garage, where they thought they put on the super softs, but they just must have grabbed the wrong tyres.
Yeah, definitely. The pit crew must have grabbed the wrong set there, and unfortunately they had to call Mint back in for another pit stop.
And it's always so harsh when you make that wrong call, especially even in the main series, for example, when we have to do a minimum of 10 laps on each tyre, and if you just come in that lap too early, it will cost you.
Yeah, or even if you come in as planned and put the wrong tyres on, then that can even work in your disadvantage and end up being a penalty, especially if you miscalculate how many laps you've done on a certain set of tyres.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess in a way it's all about just learning, and I guess you learn from your mistakes, and hopefully the next time out in the Formula 2 series he doesn't make the same mistake, and hopefully for him he can actually get himself a victory here at Trackstars. As we like to sign off here, we do thank you guys so much for tuning into the broadcast for the Trackstars Formula 2 series round 6 at the Nurburgring Grand Prix for the German Grand Prix, where we've had two splits. The first split won by Viper Z for Satellite Racing, while split 2 of the F2 series won by Nightwalker 964 for the WRT Motorsport SF19. So we wish those guys a congratulations, and hopefully they enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed it broadcasting the series to you. So any last words before any thoughts for coming into the main series, Jarman, for at least strategies and what could be a possibly could be race of the season, because it's a fast strategy with the softest compounds being available.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one, and certainly going to be hard to pick what the strategies are going to be and what the fast strategy is going to be for sure. And I reckon there's going to be a few drivers all fighting it out for the win tonight.
On behalf of myself and Spud P666, Nick Patasso, and Jarman Dellitz in the form of It's Racing, the head boss and the series administrator of Trackstars Racing Series, we wish you guys thank you. We wish you guys a happy good evening or a good morning wherever you guys are watching, or whether you guys are watching this back on replay. We wish you guys a wonderful evening. So stay tuned for the main series coming up, broadcasted by Nismo 86 Oz. That'll be coming up in at least an hour's time. But on behalf of us and the F2 series and the commentators for F2, we wish you guys a great night, and stay tuned for the main series coming up at the